if you could be citywide, townwide, countywide known that you do one thing and you do it exceptionally well, imagine the difference you could make. Imagine the income you could have, the impact you could have, the job satisfaction, the legacy. That's what we're talking about when we say specialize.
Hello and welcome to Forward/Real Estate, the podcast for the technology-enabled agent. I'm Chris Whitling, VP of Marketing at Real Geeks, and I've got one of our frequent flyers here, Todd Tramonte. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Happy to do it. Yeah, Todd Tramonte, team leader, broker here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We do a lot of radio. We've got the #1 radio show in Texas as far as residential real estate is concerned, and the only reason that really matters is it indicates the kind of team we are. We are repeat and referral first, but we also do heavy direct response marketing. We try to do that as intentionally as we can to neighborhood home sellers as well as homes on land buyers and sellers, which we would call small acreage properties. This is our 20th year as a team. We've been coaching and consulting with agents for about 12 years. We've hosted a conference with Real Geeks for about 7 years now. And we love what we get to do. I feel like this is where I get to use my God-given gifts and abilities in the world the most to add value for our team, for our clients, for agents, and for partners like Real Geeks and others. But what makes me excited and willing to do things like this and share and encourage is I think our industry is really jacked up. Right. And so I've worked really, really hard to build a team that I'm proud of, to build a team that I would want to join if I was a newer agent or if I was a seasoned agent. I would want to join and stay on.
All right. Well, you left dangling bait there, and I think I'm going to have to bite down on it immediately because you said, you think that this industry is kind of jacked up. And so you're just going to have to explain that, because there's going to be people, screaming at their iPhones right now, one way or the other. So, lay out your position before we get deeper into this thing.
Yeah. Feel free to send your hate mail to Chris at
You know what? Let's engagement hack this thing. If you think Todd's wrong right now, go down to the comments and tell us exactly.
Yeah, I'll come back and look at those and we'll fight down there. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, absolutely. Comment below if you think I'm full of bull that the residential real estate industry is generally terrible at our job. Go ahead. Now, you're going to need to give me some reasons that I'm wrong, but I'll tell you why I think I'm right. On the whole, most people are not experts. The vast majority of our industry is not even full-time. And I'm not attacking you if you're part-time, but generally as a rule, if you're not full-time, you're probably not world-class. Probably. There's exceptions, but you're probably not world-class. You're probably not building a true business. You might be helping some friends and family. You probably don't have proven repeatable systems with significant income and significant impact. You're probably not making as much of a difference in the lives of team members or agents or community or vendor partners. And so generally, when you think of a world-class professional, even you probably don't think about real estate agents. I can keep going. As to the level of professionalism that exists. When you hear an agent on the other end of the phone say, honey, I've done this for 26 years. Is your instinct, oh, she must be incredible? I bet it's not. Right? When you see somebody that's had 8 brokers in 8 years, are you thinking they're great? It's definitely not their fault. It's the broker's fault. No, our industry is known for laziness and wannabe, well-intentioned, nice people who aren't great at their jobs. And that is true. Now, there's a select group of us, probably the people tuning into a podcast like this, that want to be great, that are committed to growth. And so I'm probably not talking about you if you're hearing this. But if you're hearing this and that was convicting, great. Join the crew, run with us. Let's help each other get better. But I don't apologize for saying that this industry generally sucks at our job.
We got Todd fired up already. This is great. Yeah, I mean, if I say I'm going to an orthopedic surgeon or I'm going to, a GDPR lawyer or, a Six Sigma consultant or a cybersecurity specialist, that evokes a certain image. But if I say, I am, working with a real estate agent, even if I say that specializes in this, certain field, it doesn't evoke the same thing, right? And so
But what if it did?
what if
What
it
if we
did?
could
Yeah.
move the market just a little bit to a little more professional?
Or if you were one of those people that really did specialize to that level where you ate, slept, breathe, whatever, this specific niche, like how would that change what people say about you and how your clients think about you?
Yeah, it's funny because I use this example that most people used to not be familiar with, but because of professional sports and probably a gambling problem, people are now familiar with Mattress Mac, the gallery furniture guy in Houston. A lot of people know that he makes this big grand bet on the Astros a lot of years. And anyway, the point is, I've talked about for years. I grew up in Houston. I've lived in Dallas for 20 something years now. But the point is, he sells furniture, but the entire city of Houston, which is one of the biggest cities in the world, knows this guy by name because he's done such a good job of specializing and branding his business for repeat referral, but also for new business. And we don't all have to go that far. We don't have to be globally known. But if you could be citywide, townwide, countywide known that you do one thing and you do it exceptionally well, imagine the difference you could make. Imagine the income you could have, the impact you could have, the job satisfaction, the legacy. That's what we're talking about when we say specialize. So I want to make sure I'm answering your question, so I'll stop. But yes, I think the generalization thing is very dangerous.
Okay, so let's just dive in then to the meat of what we're going to talk about here. And like, I guess it's the perfect question is, okay, explain yourself more, Todd. How is it that helping everyone actually hurts your business?
Pick any industry on the planet. Let's use, for example, real estate. If I say, and we've all seen these postcards, right? They come to your house and it says, Bob from Bob's Real Estate or mortgage or whatever.
Right.
I specialize in residential, commercial, industrial, leasing, sales, single family, multifamily. That's not what the word specialize means. And so if you're spending your 40, 50, 60 hours a week, whatever you're working, doing 16 different things 1 or 2 times a year, would any logical, self-respecting person think that you are excellent at any of those things?
No.
Could you logically be excellent at more than maybe 1 or 2 of those things, or really any of them if you're just doing it here and there, whenever? The answer is obviously no. So as a generalist, there are things, and I think with the advent of technology and AI and some of the things that are progressing, there is some value to generalists. But in the world of residential real estate, within our industry, and we'll talk about this at the conference this year, what does the successful real estate business of 2035 look like? I will tell you, and I could be wrong, I will tell you, it does not look like generalizing within the industry of real estate. It might look like a general knowledge of technology, a general knowledge of financing, but within your core expertise of residential real estate, I'm telling you, I think your best offense and your best defense both is specialization.
I'm actually very inclined to believe you here. And my favorite question to ask real estate agents when I, meet them out on the street, doing things in Austin, is how are you different, right? And it's such a simple question, but it chokes them up it's like in a profound way,
Yeah.
or they spit out something that's like, oh, well, I, blah, 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 like I'm first at this.
Well, I can tell you what most of them spit out, and I have no idea who you're
All right. Let's hear it. Let's hear it, Todd. Hey, Todd, great to meet you. So you're a real estate agent. What makes you different than all the other real estate agents?
We are super committed to making sure that our clients have an incredible experience. We always put our clients' needs before our own. And we're people first.
You're just missing that you're like the number one sales rep in a certain hyper niche.
Yeah. We're the top office in West Austin based on random metric here.
Right.
But the point I'm making is another way to see it is, pick a big broker. I'm not going to pick on one. Let's just say ABC Realty, but one of the big brands. And they provide a big website for everyone, and then like these little agent specialty sites, and they all have like almost the same bio. I specialize in West Austin, and we put our clients' needs first, and we guarantee top-notch service. That's table stakes. That's required. That's the standard. That's not differentiation. That doesn't make you unique. But people are using the question, which, by the way, should be your favorite question. What makes you different? Man, I'm so glad you asked. We specialize in small acreage property in and around DFW. We're talking kind of half acre to 5 acre, like big backyards. Sometimes they have a well or barbed wire or solar or different issues with access. Fencing's a little different. A lot of times the maintenance is totally different, septic and stuff like that. So we specialize in helping people buy and sell. And then honestly, outside of buying and selling, we help people really, really love those properties.
So why is it that everyone seems to have your standard agent seems to have an aversion to this?
They're afraid to let go. They're afraid they're going to miss out on something. So Chris, if I told you that I specialize in desirable neighborhood homes and homes on land in DFW, I'm afraid that if your friend wants to buy a condo, you're no longer going to send them to me. And all my career, I've been putting together, my goal's been 36 deals. I've been doing 18 or 17 or 19. And they've been from any place and every place, and a little bit of commercial, a little bit of residential, a lot of neighborhoods, a little bit of townhome, one out on the lake, one that was just a lot. And I know the only way I've been getting to half of my goal is a little bit of everything. So if you're telling me, Chris, I need to pick one of those things, it scares me so much that I'm going to lose the other stuff that I can't come to a conviction to do that. That's the number one fear we hear.
That resonates, right? And I think that's like, when I talk to agents, I think that is exactly spot on. But the flip side, it's like in my position, I know a lot of tech bros moving to Austin, right? So that's a lot of people coming in. And I know a lot of real estate agents, so it makes me like a natural connector. But like I don't usually want to connect someone with a generalist. I want to give the best reference I can. And so, if the person's looking for an investment property or a condo or like small acreage on the outskirts or, like that central Austin, whatever, like I like to connect them with a person that is the right fit, that makes me as the person passing off the reference feel really, really great.
Right. It's what we would do with any other professional industry. You're like, your friend's like, I need a contract lawyer. You're like, I know a criminal defense guy. You wouldn't do that.
I know a guy that's great at DUIs. Trust me, he'll be great at this.
Yeah. But in our world, we think it's appropriate to tell our friends, to tell their friends that we're their best option at everything. Does that even sound ethical?
Yeah.
It's what the whole industry does, which is why I said the industry is generally terrible. Now, as an individual, how easy do you think it is for all your friends who all know 20 or 30 or 40 agents to remember you as real estate compared to dockable waterfront?
Yeah.
Impossible to forget you as dockable waterfront.
Yeah.
Now, they might only refer you once or twice a year or once every 2 years or whatever. But if you know 1,000 people and you're the only person they know that only does, and you don't have to say you only do it, but primarily specializes in dockable waterfront, you're probably going to get way more referrals because you're unforgettable.
That's right.
You're easily, I actually know a guy that's all he does. And I've seen the books that he writes about it. I've seen the videos he does about it. So I know the fear. I've had the fear, but I also know the benefit and had the benefit.
So let's talk about getting from, okay, I'm a generalist. I've been doing this for a little while. Maybe I've had some success in niches, but I really want to, like, I know that I need to specialize, right? Like I've been listening to all these marketing guys and I've been listening to Todd and Chris and, I get it. I need to like go in that direction. How do you get, because it does seem like a daunting problem with a whole bunch of FOMO. How do I get from, I'm a generalist that's been doing this for, a little bit of time, to, okay, I am the specialist in this field. Is it, and it's like, and it seems like, okay, is it business model based? Is it, like buyer specific or specific buyer seller types? Is it geographic? Is it, aspect, like how to lay out a decision matrix for how you would make that evolution?
Yeah. And we'll spend a big chunk of 2 days on this at the conference. So this is obviously a bigger conversation, but for the sake of right now, you would evaluate things like, what are you interested enough in to be a constant student of? What are you interested enough in to be a constant student of? Or what have you already done enough of that that's one of my favorites? I really, really like that. And then you look at things like turnover and volume and potential market size. And then you look at what you and I have discussed many times, market, message, media. Is the market real? Do I have something of value for them? What's the message that they would receive? And then what's the media to deliver that message only to that market? So we've talked about that before. We'll talk about it again. But you got to do that's some logical work like that. I would say the most important thing here is that is something you're willing to stake 50% or more of the rest of your career on.
Yeah.
If you are like terrified of water and hate boats and stuff, dockable waterfront's probably not a great niche for you. If you like love condos with rooftops, but there's only 12 of them in your city, that's not a good one, right? So some of that is just like logical. Please, in real estate, be a real business, do real business stuff. Don't just manage a busted up pipeline that's really a roller coaster of despair. Don't do that. When you're a generalist, you're like, I'm pretty good at contracts. I'm good at showings. I'm kind of good at negotiation. I'm okay on repairs. I'm not excellent at anything in that picture. And then here comes Chris, who's like obviously good at all the same stuff because most agents have to be pretty decent at that stuff. But now he's like, oh, this is a dockable waterfront. I do 57 of those a year. I know the local HOA. I know the provider of the pulleys on the boat lifts. I know the insurance you need for a composite shingle boat lift cover as opposed to the corrugated boat lift cover. I know the cost of treated lumber for this type of deal. I know what it costs to drive those, those pile driver type, things down into mud. Yeah. You have no clue and you're faking it and everyone can tell, including your client. How's that generalization going to work out for you there? What if it's your family? What if it's your friend? What if it's your friend's family? And now you have legitimately lied to them. You've told them you're the expert that could best serve them, and you're realizing on the fly that you are not. What's the ethics of that? Now, can you always and forever be the smartest person in the room? No. But you can always meet our standard of we have an above the bar. We have more than the required amount of area expertise, geographical ability, knowledge. And then you're not normal. You're differentiated. Now, I think this is one of the biggest things. I said earlier, your best offense and your best defense going forward. Who thinks Zillow or Opendoor will be better and more resourced than you at generalization? Two hands better go up.
Yeah.
Right? Or whoever's next.
Yeah.
Whoever goes against the VC money, because the VC money is going to keep coming for our multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yep.
They're not going to quit trying to figure out profitability in such an essential, massive market. But who thinks that Zillow is going to try to beat you on Lake Travis dockable waterfront or even be decent at it? I can tell you, if we have a chance, that's where we have a chance.
Let me ask you, like, minor pivot on this. So, I'm thinking about who's going to show up at the conference and, some of their different business models. And, a lot of them are exactly what you're talking about. Like specialists in geography, specialists at certain things, like
maybe. Go ahead.
I mean, like I have been on a boat with one of our agents that specialized in dockable waterfront. So like, yeah, I mean, that's a actually practical example right there. But what about the agent that says, or, even broker team lead that's like, you know what, I am a specialist in this type of marketing channel, right? So like I run, a really strong ISA team. And so I'll sell them anything I can sell them, but I'm just really great at like processing, this sort of like long tail lead.
I would ask that person how exhausting it is to continue to build and rebuild and rebuild and rebuild and rebuild their business, because they're specializing in process, not people, not market. Is everyone hearing the difference?
You're going to need to underline that. Yeah.
Now, you can specialize in a property type, a client type, a price point. That's all fine. It doesn't have to be geographic or private. Yeah. But my point is, if your uniqueness is in process, meaning the way you convert leads, the consumer base, the marketplace does not know you. It doesn't know anything about that. And so you have to adjust that to the market over and over and over and over and over. Instead of having loyalty and relationship and trust in the marketplace with a certain people group. Now, it could be that you have loyalty with them because they're physicians and you serve physicians. It could be because they are, $1 to $3 million property owners. It could be because they're townhome owners. That's all fine. You don't have to be hemmed into that. But the point is, Do you have trust and loyalty and frequency and relationship with anyone? If you're specializing in process, I think that's just it's a less cost-effective, less life cycle value way to specialize. I'm not saying don't have some specialized process. We have a proprietary selling process, proprietary buying process. But who do we serve? How do we serve? What's the difference we make? What's that transformation? I'm telling you, I'm begging you to join me on the journey to constantly communicate the value you deliver, the transformation, not features. If you have to pick features or benefits, pick benefits. But if you can go beyond benefits, how does what I do transform your life? How does what I do make your life better? That's when you're going to get hired, going to get remembered, going to get referred, going to get battled for. People will go to war for you. If your difference is, I have people in a room making calls, texts, and emails to get anyone and everyone to buy or sell with us, you have no momentum. You have no critical mass of people out there advocating. Your cost efficiencies don't ever come down. Your loyalty, repeat referral. Now, you could do a good job. I'm not saying that's an impossible model, but I know a lot of people with that model. I've coached a lot of people that try to build that model, and it can be great in seasons, but it is brutal to sustain in the long haul.
So to package that up, it's like you need a brand that resonates with the people on the other end of the phone. The pipeline, the way that they get to you is not necessarily that differentiating piece. The message is the differentiation, not the channel.
What do you have to offer? What's in it for them? That's all they care about. And it doesn't make them wrong to only care about that. So you having a phone sales team is of no value to your client.
Exactly.
It's a value to you. Now, in theory, it could add value to the client, but you have to have an opportunity to communicate that. It may be efficiency, or you might be able to find more sellers for your buyers or find more buyers for your sellers and stuff. And that is a real value of having a, inside sales team or whatever. But the point is, what is the group of people that you're creating trust with? Who are they? What do you know about them? Have you studied them? Have you obsessed about them? Do you know their wants and needs and fears? You know the pleasure they're trying to move towards and the pain they're trying to move from. Now, without making this entire episode all about marketing theory and process and stuff, I'm happy to get into some practical, but we kind of teased with this topic. There are some other things that agents are just habitually, continually getting wrong and being trained to get wrong. If you want to talk about those, we can.
Well, it's like you read my mind, because the next question I was going to ask you, I was going to say, like, since I think we got aggro Todd today, and we're going down this path, so like, tell me about where people are screwing this up.
Yeah, well, this and lots of other things.
Yeah.
We have people who are working in areas that they're just not at all very good.
Yeah.
And I'm here to give you permission to use your natural gifts and abilities, what I would call your God-given gifts and abilities. Use those more and do a lot of the things that you don't do well and that you hate doing. You can do those less. You can actually have a great business doing stuff you're bad at less or never, and doing stuff you're great at more and getting even better at it. Okay, so a simpler way to say that is stop doing stuff you're not very good at. It's not good for your client. And find ways with help to do the things you love to do and are great at more and more and more, and you'll grow a better business. So on the one hand, one of the huge mistakes that a ton of our industry is making, and really always has, is doing it all yourself. We coach a lot of people that don't want to be a team, and that's fine. You don't have to be a team, but they kind of are. It's a matter of wording. They're a solo agent with some virtual help or with some assistant help or with some agent support help, but they don't think of them as on their team. That's fine. I don't care what you call it or how you structure it. But if you are truly 100% on your own, then you have to do a lot of things you're not very good at. And so I don't really encourage anyone to be truly, completely isolated and on your own. But that doesn't mean you have to be responsible for other people's livelihoods. But you have to piece together those partners and vendor partners and support. If I needed a showing and I'm not going to do it, do I have a friend at the office that I can reliably go to? That's fine. They don't have to be on your team. But to go completely on your own, that means we are now, yes, consistently having to do things where I can't look my client in the eye and say, I'm really gifted at that. And we're probably clouding out, choking out the ability to look a client in the eye and say, man, this is what I am truly exceptional at. And you're going to get the great benefit of that. And here's my track record with that. Another thing that people do all the time that is really harmful to your client is you refuse to sell. You say things like, I don't want to be a salesy person. I just want to help people when they want my help. Well, has anyone ever had someone that really needed help that they didn't want to ask for? That was uncomfortable for you to persist and compel and persuade your client to trust your leadership on? And if you refuse to sell, if you refuse to lean in and be crafty and strategic and be trained and be equipped, they would not have gotten to that thing that was best for them. And how many of you have had a really close friend go use an inferior agent? Doesn't mean they're inferior in life, but they're not as good at real estate. And it hurt them. And it was because you could have pushed, you could have persuaded, you could have sold more. I'm not telling you to twist people's arms and shove your business card in their hand and be an annoying jerk. I'm saying be better at selling. Selling is serving. Be better at compelling and communicating that they need real help and you're the real help.
I had a thought about this over the last couple of days, and we'll see if producer Sean likes this bit and it stays in. So the thought was basically, I think a lot of there's a cohort of people that give up after the first objection. Right. They're like, oh, this person is expressing the first objection. And so rather than addressing the objection and navigating around it, which I think a lot of times is what the person, the prospect wants you to do, right? They're saying, I am concerned about this thing. And if you just be like, oh, well, okay, whatever, and walk away, like, yeah, missed opportunity. But if you then start, and this is not just sales, this is also just like negotiation or, life advice, right? Like, okay, now I'm going to address that and see if we can overcome it. Like, you're actually both better off. And there's like a nice happy zone between, okay, am I trying to compel that person through a bunch of manipulative tactics to get to the objective that I want? Or am I actually really doing the discovery of what's in their head so that they are going to experience no cognitive dissonance working with me and they're 100% on board? Right.
Yeah. We do a weekly sales role play call with our team and our coaching clients. And this comes up literally every week. Is our job, our goal is to lead them to the outcome that is best for them. We actually don't want to sell people houses that shouldn't be buying houses or that don't really want to buy house. Like, that's just almost never going to go well.
Yeah.
Right. We want to help people achieve the outcome that they want that is best for them. Now, they are often the biggest obstacle to their own outcome, and it requires compelling persuasion and selling carefully and ethically and sometimes somewhat tediously. But my point was, people refuse to sell, which often translates to refuse to occasionally push people. If doctors couldn't push people to take care of themselves, more people would be unhealthy and die. Right? If your personal trainer couldn't push and persuade and sell you on one more rep, don't take a day off, eat well, then that would go poorly for you. So we're talking about getting them where they want to go, getting them to what's best for them. But often it takes selling. If selling means serving, if selling means persuading, communicating, educating, compelling, and all those things. But, that's just a couple of things that agents are currently doing that is hurting them and killing their business. Another one is that they're working with terrible clients.
Okay.
They're working with a non-ideal,
but Todd,
ungrateful.
the customer is always right.
By the way, I love that you said that, because in residential real estate, based on license law or license rules, there's a big difference between a customer and a client. And they should all be clients, which means they've signed with you and you have a representation agreement. Different states use different language. I know that, everybody. Again, emails can go to Chris at. No. Once you have a fiduciary responsibility for them, now you need to give them all you've got. And that will go way better when they are the kind of person you can serve the best. And that goes all the way back to specialization. Who can I serve the most? Where's there a group of people that has an incredible need that I know I can serve at a very high level? That's a market product fit, market service fit. Now I can craft a message and a media campaign, whether it's just word of mouth or email. It doesn't have to be like major mass market media, but what's the delivery mechanism? All this stuff fits together, and none of it's rocket science. It doesn't make it super easy to do, but it makes it pretty simple. So the more you specialize, the more people will remember you and refer you and repeat. The more you can, your marketing can separate you and get more attention and attraction and all those things. Also, the more value you can deliver because you get to do the same thing over and over and over again. And you get to understand that Chris is my ideal client. And I already know a bunch of people like Chris, and I know that they generally have the same likes and dislikes, needs and wants. They generally like information this way, but not that. The better and better and better and better you can get at that, the more reps you get with the same people, types of people, properties, areas, price points, whatever, the more value you can deliver. So when you're like, yeah, but I'll take one 2 hours away, and yeah, I'll take one that I don't really know anything about, I just always say yes and figure it out.
Yep.
The less awesome you can get at what you do,
Right.
the less value you deliver to the client. And then the whole system breaks down. Well, you didn't do that good of a job, so you didn't get a great review, so you didn't get a repeat, you didn't get a referral, you didn't even like it that much. It took 4 times as much time, and now you don't even know if you like what you do. Working with a bunch of cruddy prospects, non-right fit, hurts everyone.
Maybe another example of this, which I just find so stark, is how like every agent you talk to, if you ask them about investment properties, says, yeah, I'll do investment properties, right? Because they like to have the deal. But if you have anything other than an investor that is like totally passive and it doesn't care, or like is going to live in the house and then maybe rent it later. Like if you have someone that actually cares about, like, oh yeah, I've been looking at my other assets and I need to reposition some wealth into this, and like, I need models that show like, based off like this debt model, what the return on, you're going to be so out of your depth so fast. And that client is not going to it's not going to go anywhere. Right. So I love it when I hear agents that are like, I either specialize investors and this is my process, right? Because those agents that specialize investors have a specific process for that. Or I do not touch investors. If you want to do investment, like here's the guy, you should go talk to him.
Yeah. You get a referral. You are the expert at what you do. And you continue to perpetuate that by saying, I'm not an expert at that. For example, we do zero commercial. We get a commercial lead or something. We refer it. We know who does what kind of commercial, which commercials got 27,000 specialties with inside of it. So we don't do a lot of leasing. We refer that out. Even though most residential agents would say, same license, we do all of that. They might not do corporate industrial, but they would be making that common mistake. And there are times like you got to do what you got to do.
Yep.
But you better make sure you are compliant, that you have enough aptitude to meet the license standard. But, there's a bunch of other things the industry does by pattern, by training, by reputation that are really counterintuitive that hurt them. And there's also a lot of things we could talk more about that people ought to specialize more. So we can go wherever you want to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think speaking of, here's a great place for a plug, right? Speaking about talking more about this, first of all, go down to the description. There's going to be a blog post covering a lot. This will probably actually be multiple blog posts. And depending on when this episode airs, if you're interested in going to Real Growth Summit, in those blog posts, there is probably some links that you should check out for that. So Todd, before we go into Act 2 here, why don't you just talk a little bit about Real Growth Summit and what that is?
Yeah, Real Growth Summit is a baby of mine that 7 years ago was born as the Real Geeks User Conference that I hosted and put on in partnership with Real Geeks. Real Geeks is, constantly growing and innovating for users like me, and leading in the real estate space as a whole. So I just said, hey, I'm going to get everybody together. And it's evolved into now year 7 of that event, but it's open to everybody, Real Geeks users and non, as a place to come and grow your real estate business. Yes, Real Geeks is there with tech support and the product team, the marketing team, and the executives. I'll interview the co-founder and CEO of Real Geeks for the 7th year in a row. Where's real estate going? Where's technology going? What's happening with AI? What's Real Geeks up to? But even if you don't have a Real Geeks CRM, or you don't have one yet, or you're never going to have one or whatever, you're going to want to be at this deal. 2 straight days of building your business, scaling teams, putting together marketing, thinking about recruiting, thinking about agent specialization or not, how to get listings, how to get buyers, how to maintain a sustainable income and impact type business. We say build the business that supports the life you want to live. We're not just trying to win trophies of most sales, but if you want to do that, it'll help with that too. We get together, we make a big difference for a cause. We have a welcome cocktail party the 14th. We have a super fun cocktail party and a bonus laser coaching session the night of the 15th. We do a little faith in business bonus session the morning of the 15th. All that stuff's optional. Of course, the whole thing's optional. But otherwise, we go hardcore all day, both days with content. It's my event, and the reason I say that is I built it because it's the event I want to attend. I go to a lot of real estate conferences that frankly are not very good, or there's like one great session and then two cool things in the hallway. My goal is to bring in speakers from outside of the industry and then awesome people from inside the industry to share their best stuff with each other. So you should be there September 15th and 16th in Dallas, Texas, realgrowthsummit.com. And what Chris was hinting at is, as the headline sponsor, Real Geeks has some bonus tickets and some sponsor tickets and a coupon code for a few people. And I don't know when you're seeing this, but if there are any of those tickets left, and there may or may not be, and you get that code, you can go get a ticket. And if you're listening to this as late as this is probably going to come out, the event is September 15th and 16th. I love it. Every year I freaking love it when someone's like, dude, I saw something, I heard something, I got an invite 4 days ago, I got on a plane, I'm here. That is usually, those are some of the people that leave going, I can't believe how valuable this is. I'm going to go set my business on fire. They come back the next year and they've like doubled their net profit, or they've added 3 agents or added way more listings or whatever. So we love action takers. realgrowthsummit.com.
You know, one of the things I like about the conference is how open book everyone is. You know, it is really like, if you want to hack on your business and like get a lot of great advice from, you know, a lot of people that are really willing to help, like I have been part of some amazing conversations at the conference over the years. So I absolutely love that part. It's not the conference to go and like flex on other real estate professionals. It is the conference to go to if you're serious about growing your business, which, you know, people that listen to all of our stuff, here's the segue, really love like the tactical stuff. You know, that is always what people like click to. And so Todd, I want to start giving them the meat, you know. And so my question to you is, like, we've been talking about differentiation and we've been talking about, you know, how to find the right clients that best serve. But now let's just get into like nuts and bolts. So like, what are the systems and habits that help the agent stay focused on these best clients?
There's a couple of very simple ones. One would be a messaging filter. Okay. So if you have a messaging filter on your computer screen, on your wall, on your cell phone screen or whatever, that tells you nothing goes out that represents me, and your business might be just you or you and your wife or husband or whatever, or 27 agents, doesn't matter. Nothing goes out that represents us that does not include A, B, and or C, you know, whatever it is. You have to determine that, and you can determine it through some of the things we said before. What are you gifted at? What could you study for the rest of your career and enjoy? You know, what do you have some aptitude? What's not all that competitive? Where is there enough transactional volume and low enough competition? There's metrics for all that. And again, we'll go into 2 days of that at the conference, but I'm trying to give it all to you in the time we have. But if you have a messaging filter that says nothing goes out that unless it includes neighborhoods and homes on land, then you know everything you do is just layering another brick in the wall. I call them little landmines of opportunity. We put out another opportunity, somebody could trip that, boom, blow it up, buyer or seller. Boom, blow it up, great agent. Boom, blow it up. Opportunity to be interviewed about that area of expertise. Contribute to a blog, YouTube channel, whatever. So one is a messaging filter that's very simple. You could probably put one together in an hour and then refine it for the rest of your career, right? And then 2 is like an audit. If I was a stranger in a Google incognito window, if you don't know what that is, Google it, and I went looking for you, what would I then think about you? So if I look it up and I'm like, all I really know is you're a real estate agent in Austin. I don't see anything that says dockable waterfront. I see that you have 4 active listings and they're in 4 completely different parts of town, 4 completely different types of property. I don't really know. Okay, so now how do I start to move that needle? How do I redo that audit once a month and see if strangers start to see me as more of a specialist? If I'm asking for reviews, I want those reviews to include language about what I'm specializing in. That's indexable. That's searchable. That's where most people are going to see me first or second, maybe third. What's on my website? What's in my email campaigns? What's in my email signature? If I have business cards, what's on it? If I have a sign out front, what's on it? If I do events, is there signage? Are there stickers? Are there shirts? Are there hats? you could go, if you're in a right market with the right number, you go 30 days from no one knew to most people know. It is impossible to get to everybody knows.
There is marketing terminology that has made it out into pop culture, right? When people say that's on brand, it's basically probably a marketing. I mean, obviously we say that, but that's on message would be another, more like marketing PR way of saying it. And so I like the idea of like, you could write this out and be like, okay, this is my messaging guide. In fact, we should probably just start saying like, instead of you could do this, you just go to your AI of choice and say, I need to develop a brand messaging guide. And like, this is what I think about myself. And it will help you write that. No problem. Right. You're
And
gonna
then continue to refine that going forward. But yeah, brand guide, messaging filter, whatever you want to call that, start very simple.
Yep.
And you can refine it. But I don't make it so. Now, there's going to be some different channels have some different layers and rules, right? Every single social media post for the next 20 years doesn't need to say, and I specialize in, right? But it can hint and indicate in the background or what, whatever. But that's what you're starting.
Let me actually opine on this for a second.
Okay.
I like to, there are things that you say blatantly, and then there are things that are themes that you let people pick out. Right. And so you don't, if you, this could be elements of like the way that your brand is put together, right? That you don't have to like hammer everything directly. There could be things that are like, this is our broad theme, but we never say it like exactly that this is how it is. Right. And so like, I would encourage people to think about like, what is the unavoidable message that they will get like being around your brand, but that you are never going to say directly. Right. Which is different from the things that are always going to be like, let's say you're doing, text ads or something like that. It's always going to be in your ads because it is absolutely central to your message.
Yeah. And there's a lot that is better caught than taught. Right. So I think you asked me last time I was on, can't remember what the question was, but my answer was the two things that we want our brand associated with. Now, brand's a tricky word, and I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole, but I always say expertise and fun, right? We're not saying to the world, we're experts and we're fun, but those are the those are the indirect things that we want association with, right? So indirectly, we want to model that. We want people to catch that while we do the things that are direct, like talk about homes on land and neighborhoods, right? While we model our expertise, instead of saying we are experts, we're going to show our expertise. Instead of saying we are fun, we're going to show our fun. But a messaging filter would be one of those action steps. Getting your area of specialization mentioned in reviews, that's one of those action items, right? Doing an audit of what does a stranger see if they Google me or Google the things I want to be found when people are Googling. If they Google dockable waterfront Austin, that's not my name or my brand, but how do I get found? And then what do they see? Because they're not finding this when they do that, but they're finding that about me when they do that. So what's there? So that's that audit process. And you could come back and do that every 30 days. And just your commitment is that we're going to get better and better and better every 30 days, every 30 days, every 30 days, every 30 days. These are action steps. Some of them are immediate, like I changed my email signature and my banner on my website where I'm sending a bunch of paid traffic. And then others are subtle, indirect, over time, trust building, earn momentum, organic, whatever. And we could go on and on and on for hours. Like to your point, what's direct, what's indirect? What's the primary messaging? What's some of that secondary messaging? Is there tertiary messaging? What do I do for past clients? What do I do for active clients? What do I do for preferred ideal prospects? And what do I do for the whole audience, the whole town? Different things, different budgets of time, energy, and money. And this doesn't have to all be about marketing. Some of it is about your desire, your passion, your excitement. What are you already doing that you love doing that's easy that could help you build a specialized brand?
So there's two questions that are basically they're the same question, but just framed in different aspects of the business that I like to ask people. And this is outside real estate as well. Where are you spending most of your time and effort to acquire your customers, right? And so the sophisticated players will just like list off the list. Okay, I do, this channel, this channel, this channel, this channel, and the breakdown is XYZ. This is where we spend the money. This is where we spend the effort. This is the outputs of those. Great. Same question, all right, well, where are you spending the effort in your business? Like more as an operational question, right? So like, is it marketing? Is it operations? Is it, whatever, right? It's trying to get at like what the problems are, right? So, and I think, so I think the sophisticated people have answers to this, and I'm teeing you up for a question here, but maybe Todd, I'll let you react to this first, and then I'll ask my question.
Yeah, I was just going to say in our coaching world, we borrow from Michael Gerber and the E-Myth all the time. And when you're working on your business as opposed to in it, these questions are critical. Because a lot of people think they're working on their business when they're not with a client, which is probably true in some ways. But until you can get out of it and see it through a different lens and see it from some distance, you may not be doing good work. You may not be doing productive work that's going to get you where you want to go. So I'll let you ask your questions.
Yeah, sorry, this is just sparking another tangent here, which is like, the big tech companies will talk about like, well, is this person a manager? Or is this person an IC? And it's almost useful to think about yourself, even as a sole proprietor that way. Like, am I doing this task as an individual contributor in my business where I am like turning the crank that is going to like crank out widgets? Or am I doing this other thing where it's like a management role that is going to make the IC's role more productive? Right. And so you could think about it that way.
And we talk about it with hats again. So there's a lot of coaches that are good at how to get a listing, how to do buyers. We do all that. The thing I think we're uniquely good at is strategy and the core, like, is this a real business? Because you can learn how to get listings all the time and you may not still have a business. And you could also have a great strategy and not hustle and not have a business. But the thing that I think we can be uniquely good at is building a strategy around the life you want to live and making that business consistent and sustainable so you can have income and impact. All that to say, the Gerber terminology is a manager, an entrepreneur, and a technician. And if you have a small business, you're going to wear all of the hats at times. To your point, you're like, my technician hat, I'm writing contracts, I'm prospecting, I'm setting appointments, I'm converting appointments, I'm negotiating, I'm being an agent technician. The manager is anyone else helping me, and how am I helping them help me? And then the entrepreneur is, I think what you're talking about, is where you back away and you're like, I need to be creative. I need to create a system, a process. I need to change that, fix that, put out that fire. But I'm not selling and I'm not managing people to lead to direct sales right now. I'm building strategy. I'm building brand. These are indirect down the road things. And I have to be able to detach, take that hat off to put this other one on. And we talk to people and train on how much time should you spend on each and what are you gifted at? Where do you need help? No two people are the same. Like, we could do a whole episode on that, but it's different.
Right. So instead, I'll ask the question I've been teeing up for, which is like kind of another one of these engagement hacking rage bait questions, which is, so go down to the comments and leave your answer. Where are agents spending time, in the context of this discussion that is just an absolute waste and they should, repurpose it?
In part 3, he continues. Now, okay. We talked about some earlier, but just to give you new ones without having to revisit any of those, this is going to sound crazy. I think there's a lot of agents spending time learning stuff that they shouldn't even try to learn.
Ooh.
They're studying the MLS. They're studying all this inventory that they have no need to know about when they should be committed to learning stuff that will drive direct value to your clients or your team right now today. You should be improving on your talents, your unique gifts, your abilities, where your company's different, where you could be better. Now, that does not ignore the fact that you need a baseline aptitude on some things. So I'm not saying just be willing to be horrible at critical things, but I'm saying there are people that convince themselves they're being productive when they're sort of studying or doing work that could someday maybe be helpful. And it's okay to say, I don't know anything about that. I have someone else for that. I refer that out. I help him for that. She helps me for this. That is how real businesses work. Nobody's awesome at everything. And if you're spending a bunch of time trying to be awesome at things you're instinctively not very good at, I think that is unwise. I think you're better off getting 1% better at the thing you're exceptional about and being even more exceptional than trying to become really good at something you're not going to be really good at. Now, you have to be good enough at some things to meet standards and ethics and all those things. But after that, I think that's an area people waste a lot of time. I also think people tell themselves they're prospecting when they do a bunch of research before a call that might not even get answered. So people that get 4 calls in because they never felt ready to make the call, you're killing yourself. You are wasting a lot of time. Critical information, practice having something to say when they get on the phone to buy yourself time to access the information that you're now currently, a lot of people, reading and studying before you make the call. You can make 20 times more calls, text or emails, get them on the phone, have a little script to add value while you're buying yourself time to pull up the unique information and then have it. Did that make sense or did I go too fast?
Well, I think that's almost like, I like that because it's like a hyper tactical thing that, we've been talking about all this, like, sort of big brain marketing stuff, but, at the end of the day, you got to make the calls. Right. And so if you're not doing that, then maybe you should reassess the way that you're allocating time. Is that maybe a good summary of what you just said?
Yeah. I mean, don't do things you're not going to be good at, period. And I know I'm not going to be a world-class designer of anything. So if I'm trying to download Canva and figure out how to do flyers for my open house, in the beginning, you have to do some stuff, but as quickly as you can. Even if it's not for money, it's a trade of expertise, or I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. Find someone who's uniquely good at that or better at that or has more aptitude or has more time or energy or whatever. And don't try to get great at things you're not going to be great at. Don't try to do things you're never going to be world class. If I have to be in the back end of an ad campaign, I'm physically agitated. I know I should never be the one doing that. You lead teams of people that are world class at that. I should not even touch it. And you have to know that about yourself. People burn a lot of time thinking I'm supposed to be good at that. There's a lot of people managing their own PPC. It's one of the dumbest things they could be doing. There's a lot of people trying to.
I was just thinking about that. It's like marketing world's like replete with those examples.
I'm
where
saving money.
Yeah.
No, you could have sold 2 more houses and paid somebody $600 to do that. And I'm not saying everybody has $600 to throw around. In the beginning, you might have to do some stuff, but as quickly as you can, don't. And in the beginning, there's no cost things where you could have a teenager or a cousin or a friend or another agent in your office. Man, you're so good at that. I'm pretty good at this. What if I do that for you and you do that for me and we both enjoy our work more and put out more value in the world? So that's a real deal.
Yeah, I know. It's like, well, what do you call the difference between the value that someone receives versus the effort that you put in, right? That's like profit. Right. Yeah. And well, everyone's happy to pay it. So
yeah, there's just a lot of time spent on things that people think they're supposed to be doing, where it's okay just to be like, I'm no good at that. I have somebody that helps with that.
Just as a like closing question, right? How do you make sure that you're standing out for the right reasons?
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 quick thoughts on that. Number 1 is constantly be guarding against standing out for the wrong reasons, right? So be vigilant, be aware, audit, mystery shop. As owners, as entrepreneurs, as leaders, whether it's leading yourself or leading a team of 2 or 22, whatever, part of that gig is to be the putter outer of fires, right? And so you're looking for fires. That's just part of it. Oh, that could go bad. Let's protect. Let's be careful. Let's be extra cautious. And then deliberately, willfully making sure that the thing that is out there, whether it's just word of mouth or actual marketing or branding or advertising, means you got to commit some time to it. You got to continuously grow or find people that are gifted at those things. And again, this is a quick question, quick answer. But if you had that messaging filter, if you had this is what we put out, this is what we don't put out, that becomes easier. And you can delegate easier. You can get help easier. You can get virtual help. You can use Fiverr. Hey, here's our messaging filter. Could you help me with these things? All of a sudden, you don't have to be the only one all the time. And you can protect against being known for things you don't want to be known for and build that momentum much faster with much more energy, with much more success on things you do want to be known for. I want to make sure people get actionable takeaways. So one of the things people are killing themselves doing, and that would help if they were more specialized, is I call it seeding the source ground. The people that you have promised directly or indirectly that I will be your source of real estate expertise, and you let them go get real estate expertise from inferior sources. That is a mistake people are making. If your clients get their best real estate info from Zillow, you have given up that ground of being the primary source of real estate expertise for them in your marketplace. and you should be way better than Zillow in your marketplace. Okay? If they're reading the local newspaper, our local newspaper is absolutely terrible at helping people with anything. They're good at getting eyeballs. They're terrible
You
at
have a newspaper?
Dallas Morning News, Fort Worth Star Telegram. Dallas is worse than Fort Worth at this, but they're both really bad. And it's because it's not their job to advocate for homeowners. It's their job to get people to read or click or listen or view or whatever. My point is, if you are not actively being protective, that you should be the most authoritative guide, advocate, leader, protector of your clients in your sphere, that's a mistake you're making in real estate. You don't have to have a beautiful newsletter. You don't have to have print and digital and audio and video and all that. But if these are people that trust you for real estate expertise, you should be offended if they're going to anyone else for expertise or anyone over you or anyone before you. Okay? The other one, really quickly, is wasting your expertise. So when you are really great at property valuation, local trends, whatever, but you're not putting that out there, you're not sharing that, you're not getting that to your ideal prospects or your clients or your vendor partners, and you are not using your natural ability, your giftedness, the thing you're great at, you're not using it enough, then you're also harming yourself, harming the growth of your business, harming your ability to deliver value and love and enjoy. Who feels great when you're doing something you're awesome at? Pretty much all of us. So when you're underutilizing that expertise because you're doing all the busy work where you're not an expert, that doesn't drive value, that's not fun, that doesn't make money, that doesn't create impact, those are two other quick ways that you are actually things agents do to hurt their own businesses. Hope that was clear.
Yeah, I think so. Send us home, Todd. Give us the final, third or fourth, Real Growth Summit plug here, and tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, if you want to have a sustainable, profitable business in real estate in 2035, you've got to be a part of more of these conversations in 2025. You got to listen to this podcast, watch this podcast. You got to come to the Real Growth Summit on September 15th and 16th. realgrowthsummit.com. If we still have tickets left by the time you're hearing this, there's going to be a paragraph or a blog or a link somewhere near where you're watching or listening that you might be able to get a discounted ticket, but if you're lucky, you'll be able to get a ticket at all. Get in the room. Come to the welcome party September 14th, that evening, 4 to 6 p.m. Check in, register, get your stuff, get a drink, get a hors d'oeuvre, meet some people that you're going to run with for the next 2 days. All day the 15th and all day the 16th. Cocktail parties, lunches, dinners together. Lots to learn. Connect with Real Geeks. Connect with people in your same career stage or role. Talk to people who have been where you want to be and help people who want to be where you are. It's an incredible community. It is the most generous group of real estate professionals on the planet. We will have people there for the 7th year in a row, lots of 5th and 6th. Real Geeks has been there it'll be their 7th. And then go seek out other expertise. If you have expertise to offer it to others and build that reciprocity in the world.
Awesome. This has been excellent. Everyone, thanks for listening. This is /Real Estate. I've already invited you to be part of the conversation. You know what to do. Todd, always great talking to you. Sean, thanks for doing your thing. We're out.
Thanks, fellas.